welcome to the Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network, presented by Coors Light. Go from full-time to game time. Coors Light, made to chill. Make sure you find the Raptors Show where we listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. I'm your host, Wayne Liu. We have made it. Within literally 5 seconds of getting on air, we have made it. And, joining me for the first hour to recap the Raptors win over the Indiana Pacers are the Pound the Rock boys from theScore, Joe Casciaro, Joe Wolfond. What's up, guys? How you guys doing, man? You guys all right?
Great, man. Made it in the nick of time.
Yeah. It's a cozy show. Will's got a cozy-looking sweater on. Wolfond and I are separated by about 4 inches over here. We're good.
Yeah.
There's nothing like when we used to cram into the Score studio to record Pound the Rock back in the day, though.
What did we call it before? Like the water tank or something? Like it was like
I don't remember that.
No? All right.
It was a cozy spot, though.
It was a cozy spot.
Oh, Will's got the French press going, too?
That's right, yes.
That brings back old memories.
Here's the thing. Yeah, this is why I was almost late for the start of the show. Alex, you could just go close the door now. Thank you.
Tell me you're going to share that French press coffee with us right now.
Well, listen, I can only make one at a time. So You guys are here for 2 segments. I'm going to get you one each. I've started a company at this company. It's called Big Face Coffee. All right. Big Head Coffee, sorry.
I was going to say, you don't want Jimmy Butler coming after you.
I was going to say that's already been taken, no?
Yeah, clear ripoff, but it will be $20. But I will give one of you guys a coffee to start if you guys do want it to happen. Because, that's the kind of excitement I'm feeling after that win after the Pacers. You know, it's incredible how much a 1-point game can change your entire life.
It was a caffeinating experience.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to get to. Raptors win last night, 132-131. Wolfond, I'll start with you. I think the story to me in this game was obviously just very little defense play from Indiana, and that really allowing the Raptors to get into a lot of what they do actually do well on offense, which is thrive around the paint. And I think Pascal is a huge example of that. He goes for 36 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, goes 9 of 11 from the free throw line, which is huge, including making 2 in the fourth quarter, in addition to setting up 2 threes. Wolfond, what did you see from Pascal?
I think it's a lot of what we've seen when the Raptors' offense has been successful this season, which is lean into your strengths. And for him, it was like there were matchup advantages all over the floor that they could attack. Sometimes the Pacers were sending help at those matchups, and he was making the right play. They're getting the ball zipping around. Like there was one, can't remember who he had in the post, but they sent a double, and it was like kick, swing, Yak setting the pin in the corner for, I think, Otto. That can work. And then when they're not setting help, he's going to work. And I think the important thing, this is what we've talked about, I think, numerous times, where it's like these 2 things, like the idea of what the new offense is supposed to be and what Pascal is good at, don't have to be entirely at odds. You can get Pascal the looks that he likes to get without totally disrupting what you're trying to do. And I think the fact that we've started to see them lean into more of those post-ups, more kind of mid-post ISOs, while the passing and like the team's assist rate has all stayed very high because, I think they're getting it early. Like the early offense, especially last night, I thought was a big part of that. He's running the floor. He's getting early deep steals, or they're creating the advantage and like initially finding him with that advantage, and he's going to work really quickly. I think they're getting it within the flow. And so that to me is what I know, like we're playing a Pacers defense, right? Where there's just not a ton of resistance. You're not going to see those kinds of matchup advantages typically. And you're also going to, even when you have certain matchup advantages against other teams, they're going to be better at accounting for them, bringing doubles and navigating the rotations on the backside than the Pacers were last night. But I think just recognizing where those advantages are and being able to attack them is still progress. Like I think from where we saw this offense at the start of the season, when it was maybe intentionally more about drilling down on these new offensive principles than it was about trying to win the game in front of them. So I think, credit to Pascal for doing exactly what he needed to do. Credit for Darko and the Raptors coaching staff and the Raptors players for recognizing how they needed to help put him in those positions to succeed. And before I kick it over to Cash, I thought most encouragingly, probably out of anything, was just Pascal and Scottie working together, interacting cooperatively in actions together, like not kind of my turn, your turn, or this time we're going to run a play designed for Pascal. Next time down, we're going to run one for Scotty. But like using them together in action where there are option plays that can unlock either of them for scoring opportunities. And that was really encouraging for me to see.
Yeah, and I know it was one game. You don't want to read too much into it, but watching that game made me think the Raptors could probably stand to play a little faster because, you know, for as much as the 0.5 offense and the concept of making a decision with the ball in your hands within a half second, give or take, obviously not actually that quickly, but that's the general concept of the 0.5 offense. They don't actually play fast in general. They're one of the slowest paced teams. It's just that when the ball's in their hands, they're supposed to be making quick decisions. And I think if you kind of watch the way last night flowed, the Pacers, in addition to being terrible defensively, they're an exceptionally fast team. Wolfond and I have talked about this. It's not just that their offense is on a record-setting efficiency pace, but it also plays extremely fast. They're fast after stops, after turnovers, but they're also, in terms of after opponents' makes, playing at the fastest clip after makes than I think any team in cleaning the glass is like 21-year database or something. And if you watched that game last night, I feel like the Raptors playing at that pace actually helped them because their offense just seemed to be flowing more. And like, I don't know, maybe they didn't have as much time to overthink things, but it did seem, and to Wolfond's point, even just the balance between, you know, the pass-happy 0.5 offense and also just straight up taking advantage of matchup advantages with Pascal, the balance seemed better. Everything seemed more fluid. Again, I realize we're talking about one game. Sometimes the eye test can lie to you when you're talking small samples, but watching that game, that's what I came away thinking. They don't have to be the fastest team in the league like Indiana or Washington or something like that, but I think they can stand to play a little faster because I think at least going into last night's game, they were like bottom 5 in pace, and I think the style they want to play makes a little more sense if they're, in general, getting into their offense quicker too, not just making quick decisions when the ball's in their hands.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously true for pretty much every offense that you want to have more time on the shot clock to run it, but especially for what the Raptors want to do. You know, it's not necessarily intricate, but there's like 4 or 5 things that typically have to happen before the ball gets to the high post, and then they're making a decision from there. The quicker you get the ball from there and, you know, you just allow for more actions to be run, you cut down on isolation. So the Raptors don't really isolate that much anyway. That's one of the big things under Darko. But yeah, I mean, obviously yesterday their offense ran at a really smooth kind of efficiency. I think Pascal leading the line here for the last couple of games have really worked out. Like he had the 10-point performance, I think, against Philly in one of their 2 losses to Philly, and then he had like an 8-point performance against San Antonio. Fortunately, they won the one in San Antonio, but that one was pretty much a loss until Scotty took over. In the 9 games since, he's averaged 24.5 points, 7.8 rebounds, 5.4 assists on 56% shooting from the field. That's all in 32 minutes, by the way. I feel like last year he was averaging that, but like in 38 minutes a game. And it does feel like he's sort of, you know, back to, you know, himself, whether that's Darko, whether that's him. That's combining well. To the point about Darko, how about the play he drove for the game winner? Any thoughts on that?
Wait, are we talking when Scotty? Wait, was the game winner the Scotty dunk? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was.
That was the game winner, right?
Because they missed so many free throws.
I think that
held
did,
up as the game-winning basket. Yeah.
Where Pascal was it Pascal that kind of cut across the free throw line?
Pascal was coming for the handoff. It was a fake handoff keeper, and I mean, what allowed it to work was Pascal had a super efficient scoring game. They'd run him off a couple of Scotty DHOs in that game. And the Indiana defense bid on it, right? Like that's hard to do with a guy who isn't really a threat to like stop and pop coming off a DHO. Usually, you know, you can have the defense kind of laying back a bit and they're not going to bite that hard and sell out to stop the guy coming off the potential DHO. But because they ran it with pace, because Pascal had been having the game that he had, they sold out to stop Siakam, and there goes Barnes with the keeper and gets a runway to the rim. Like, not tremendous defense played by the Pacers on that play, but a good design, I think, to take advantage and maybe subvert the expectations of the Pacers defense a little bit.
Yeah.
I think in general, Darko's timeout usage was good last night. Like his, you know, run, if you believe in them at all, like his run-stopping timeouts to kind of keep the Pacers at bay. And then also the way he used them in the fourth quarter, because he used It felt like he used a bunch in a short period of time, but I thought they were used really well. And for the most part, they came out of those timeouts almost every time with a nice ATO, except that one time. I don't know if you remember, I think it was in the fourth quarter. They came out of a timeout, but it didn't really seem like they had an ATO, or maybe the Pacers just sniffed out the first option. But other than that, I thought timeout usage, plays after timeout were good. And I also think, Will, to your point about Pascal, I think you said his last 9 games, what his numbers were, but in only 32 minutes, this does get to what Darko Rajakovic was saying from the beginning, even on media day, when he talked about how he doesn't necessarily want to like take away from Pascal's numbers or his overall impact, but he believed, at least at the time, I'm sure he still does, that Pascal can still get to those numbers, but in much more efficient and almost using less effort to do it. Now, obviously, the first few weeks of the season, that didn't seem like the case at all. But the last couple of weeks, that actually does seem to be the case, where he is getting his numbers. It's obviously helping the team. He's getting it within the offense, and it's been a little more efficient. And even just from a minutes perspective, forget the efficiency from a numbers perspective. From a minutes and like effort perspective, it has seemed a little better for Pascal as well.
Yeah, and I think the only thing missing from the game right now is he's still not shooting threes much. He made one last night. It felt nice, but I think he needs to sort of continue working and getting his form back from 3. We're not expecting like Klay Thompson from 3, but we are expecting just like a league average from 3. I think that would help a lot. The free throw shooting seems to be bouncing back a little bit. I mean, 9 of 11 last night. When he went to the free throw line, when he got fouled, I think by Halliburton in like a 1-possession game when he went to the line. I'm not going to lie to you. I was not expecting both to be made, but he made both, which was nice.
You thought he was Gary Trent out there?
Oh, that's tough. We'll get to Gary. We're going to
55% on the year from the line.
Yeah, it's
Got
unbelievable.
that Wiggins syndrome, man. What's going on?
Yeah, well, we'll try to fix because Darko has already fixed Malachi, and we'll talk Malachi as well. But we will try to put on our Darko hats, and I guess he doesn't have hats. What does Darko have? Hugs? We're gonna do our Darko hugs and figure out how do we fix Precious and Gary, because those two guys are causing me a lot of stress watching Raptors games. But to the point about Pascal, like he is generating that advantage, and I think when you're thinking about 0.5 offense, like you still need to generate that first advantage in order for that advantage to cascade.
Yeah.
And the Raptors weren't finding enough advantages elsewhere aside from Pascal. Obviously, Scottie was doing it, but like he can't just be the only man who's creating the advantages. If they want to play a lot out of Yak, we saw last night that was a good example of how they want to play out of Yak. And your point about the timeouts was great because, I went back and looked at it. After the Raptors had called, I think, 6 timeouts last night. And 5 of them, they had the ball right afterwards. So they were able to immediately drop the set to go into it. They got 4 makes out of it, all 4 at the rim, including the game winner. And then the one that they missed, it was kind of a play that kind of went dead. And then Dennis took Buddy Hield off the dribble to the basket and got stripped. Process-wise, I actually don't hate that. I think you could drive Buddy Hield to the basket. That was like half of the Raptors' offense last night. But yeah, Darko did a good job of managing, his timeouts. I thought his rotations were much better too.
I was gonna say, that was a big part of it, like the lineup decisions. And what does that look like if Precious Achiuwa is healthy? You know what I mean? Like, did that change things to the point that those were the rotations we saw instead of the 4 bench guy units that have been falling on their face pretty much all season? I would hope that you kind of look at the tape from that game and recognize, I think having 2 starters on pretty much at all times is probably a better way to go. And I think the way that he structured those lineups in order to get usually as much shooting on the floor as possible was clearly really beneficial. And I just thought, and this is a broader trend, but the minutes with Scottie at the 5 were once again really, really strong. Yeah. And I think those minutes were where we saw him and Pascal getting the most out of their 2-man game. Like actually running pick and rolls together, getting slips, getting stuff at the rim out of that. There was another play even before the fake DHO that won the game where it was Pascal looked like he was coming to get a DHO, then cut back door. I think he had Mathurin on him. Scottie hits him on the cut, and it's like TJ McConnell was the low man, because Yak was not on the floor.
Sure.
Like it just,
yeah.
I think Yak's had a bit of an up and down season. He's had some rough patches. Again, last night, just a couple times where he wasn't catching the ball cleanly, which has never really been an issue for him in the past. But I don't put this on him necessarily. It's just that if they're able to survive, and they're doing more than survive defensively right now, they're thriving defensively with Scotty at the 5, like a huge development if that can continue. If they can manage that at the defensive end, it's just so much cleaner offensively, and especially in terms of the synergy that you get with him and Pascal because of how much more space there is. Especially when it's someone like Otto taking Yak's spot in those lineups.
I mean, first off, it's as you mentioned, this is a trend that is an extension of what happened last year as well. I know a lot of people are like advocating like, okay, why did we get Yak if we want to play Scotty at the 5? I thought that last year he got overplayed at the 5. I think it can wear you down. I think the analogy to draw here for me is like when the Warriors have their great teams, it was like they would start Draymond and Andrew Bogut. You have a true 7-footer. And then when you need to go turbo or towards the end, you go smaller. And we see that all the time. Yak never closes games. Last night, 2-minute mark, OG went to the foul line, and Darko was like, let me put Gary in the game instead. Let me put Malachi in the game instead afterwards for defense instead of Jakob. But, like, most centers nowadays are really situational. Like, there are maybe 5, like, all utility centers in every single scenario. So you're going to have to toggle between them. My bigger thing is, you pointed out that Precious wasn't available. Like, the times we've seen Scotty play small ball 5 has been when Precious has been out of the lineup. And those minutes have looked really good. And, and when we're talking about, like, running a lot of what the Raptors want to do with their hub offense, the hub looks a lot better when it's Scotty versus when it's Precious.
Yep.
So, Cash, I guess I'll ask you, like, can you get Scotty minutes at the 5 with Precious still on the floor?
With Precious still on the floor, probably not, or not as many as they'd like to. I think, unfortunately, the answer here might be that Precious might slowly find himself fading out of the rotation. Like, maybe not completely, but I could see it happening because if you look at just how the bench has struggled with all those guys in there, and B, like I'm not saying Precious and Boucher do all the same things, but at the same time, like they're both bench bigs. Both of them really rely on energy. Like they can, both make some low IQ plays. Like I don't think you want both guys out there together that often. If you're only going to play one at a time, you're going to have one of the other bigs or Scotty masquerading as a 5 in there too. You're not going to have a lot of time for both of them anyway, separately. So like one of them probably has to see his minutes cut. Now to start the season, Achua has been hurt, and that's, I guess, not helped the team, but you know what I mean? Helped Darko figure out a rotation without him because he hasn't been in the lineup.
Sure.
And Boucher has been in and out of the lineup. But if those guys are both healthy and available every night, starting to think you're going to have to pick one of them. And it doesn't have to be a full-time thing. Maybe it's matchup dependent. I don't know. But I don't see how both these guys, the way both have played so far this year, and especially when compared against the way the Raps look with Scotty at the 5, and more importantly, as Wolfond touched on, the way Scotty and Pascal play together when Scotty's at the 5. Because we've talked, I know Wolfond and I have talked off air about, like, can Siakam and Barnes ever have great games together? Like, or do they always have to be one on, one off? And I think this might be the path towards that, is having Scotty at the 5, again, in isolated minutes. Like you said, it could be situational. But I think one of Boucher or Achua probably has to fade out of the rotation for that to happen as often as the Raptors need it to happen.
And need it to happen not only for, like, let's say the rest of the year it's not successful. That's still an important data point that you need, right? You're building this thing around Scotty Barnes. Like, you need to know, hey, is this a real thing? Is Scotty at the 5 something that we can roll with going forward for 15 minutes a game? Like, you need that sample size to be as big as it can possibly be, I think, this year. So you just have that information. And I think that is more important than, finding minutes for both Precious and Chris. And, I think Precious has definitely had his moments defensively this season. But the big thing with him is, like, if he's not giving it to you at the defensive end, then I just don't see a reason really to play him right now, because it's always going to be an adventure offensively. And I think this season he's hurt at that end of the floor more than he's helped. And honestly, like, again, he's had some great defensive performances. That game against Orlando, I think, was like one of the worst defensive games I've seen him play as a Raptor. And if
very disconnected.
If he is not, providing that sort of bulwark on the back line of your defense, then I think that he looks to me more like the odd man out. And I think we're talking about getting data points here, but if we're talking about Scotty at the 5, why it's worked so much better this year than it did last year, for example. One of the things I think is like Scotty's looked so much better as a rim protector on the back line of the defense. He's been very, very strong. And just the rebounding, man. Like he has been so much better as a rebounder. Not only just like getting up and like out jumping guys or out maneuvering guys on the glass, but like his box outs have been so sound. Like he had one in the second half last night where he just like he didn't seem like he had position on Miles Turner, and like at the last second he kind of just like ducked in and boxed him out, and he didn't even grab the rebound. It was a team rebound, but it was just like little stuff like that he wasn't doing last year that's made him more viable, I think, as a small ball center.
And his Scotty's also capable of loud rebounds, and I think we can all, like, you guys have probably seen what I'm talking about. It's not just that
tell me he getting a Carmelo rebound?
No, he doesn't have to say what Carmelo said when he grabbed it. It's to be honest, you can have the game on mute, and there are some rebounds that Scotty grabs and be like, that was a loud rebound. It's one of those gimme that rebounds where it's like a maze of bodies, 50-50 ball. Scotty not only gets to it, but gets to it like before the other four guys going for it have even left the ground. He's like 5 feet above them, comes down with it. It's just, there's like a presence about him when he does it. And I know from an evaluation standpoint that like doesn't really matter, but when you're watching it, it does matter. Like I don't want to say it's an effort thing because obviously every player out, like they want to get the ball, but it's an ability thing. It's an athletic gift thing, but his ability to grab those rebounds helps when he is playing an undersized five, because obviously rebounding is one of the things a lot of teams usually give up when they are playing small or with a smaller guy at the five. But when you have Scotty in there and he has those athletic gifts and he is one of the players who can grab those loud kind of gimme that rebounds, it offsets that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it also speaks to his conditioning, the improved conditioning that he talked about.
Don't get 8,000 times.
Yeah, I've talked about season. But I mean, like, seriously, I think it's translating. My thing is, look, I don't want to give up on Precious just yet. Like, I'm cool with sliding Precious out of being the post hub for my own sanity. But and giving it to Scotty, right? Because I think, A, Scotty's much better at it. B, it'll make you much more competitive. But I also think that then you would have to find a different role for Precious. Is he cool essentially playing 3 and D?
Right. And so that when Precious looked like, oh, wow, this could be a dude. Like, this could be actually part of the core moving forward, was after the All-Star break 2 seasons ago when he was shooting over 40% from 3 on, like, decent volume.
He hit a pull-up 3 in transition in, like, Joel Embiid's eye one of those games. It was random. Yeah, it was.
So that is just, I mean, that is more than a swing skill for him. Like, that is, that's like the whole sandwich right there, right? Like, that is everything. If that ever comes back with consistency, then, of course, there's a role for him offensively because, you know, not only is he able to make defenses pay if they're sagging off of him, maybe he starts to actually garner some respect. And I think what we saw down the stretch of that season was whether guys were like staying close to him when he was spotting up, he was drawing closeouts. And for him, like that opens everything up because he is actually able to put the ball on the floor and he is so explosive. You know, it's like one dribble and he can be on top of the rim if he's attacking a closeout. But if that's not happening, he doesn't have any space to attack. And again, it's like, where do you put him? Where does he go? How do you use him in the offense? When he was shooting lights out from deep, it was kind of just like earlier that season, he'd had all these problems figuring out like just where to be on the floor, where to space, when to cut. And he was constantly cutting into guys' airspace and just like getting in people's way. And that made it so much easier because it's like, yeah, you can just kind of like, you know, we have like a baseline drift. Like you can stay up here and like float to the wing. And suddenly it simplified everything for him offensively. And I think right now it's not hitting his threes. Like he hit that pick and pop 3 against the Pistons. That was like, okay, I would love to see more of that. But I think it's more if he's not getting those kind of elbow touches. Yeah. Does he know how to operate within an offense in a helpful way?
I would love for him to just like get with Otto Porter and just like watch Otto Porter tape, even just Otto Porter on this team. Like it's not even that much tape. There's probably only been like 100 minutes played. Watch all 100
Pretty solid minutes though.
Yesterday, Otto Porter comes in, plays 11 minutes off the bench, right? He's the one who was promoted up in the rotation because of the fact that Precious is out. And so he takes some of those minutes. And all he had in the box score was like 4 rebounds and 1 made 3. But like when you watch them, you're like, oh, this is actually a stress-free performance. Like he's in the right spots. He's not overcrowding. Obviously, there's total difference between Otto, who's a career 40% three-point shooter, and Precious, as you're mentioning. But there's a lot of things you can learn and adapt from some of that kind of thing. Because I'm not giving up on Precious as a prospect. I just want him to not make so many mistakes that it essentially like tanks the whole bench. And it's not only him. We'll get to Gary right after this. But to me, it's just like I want to see more out of Precious. Because look, if Darko can fix Malachi, I know he can fix an even better prospect in Precious.
But this is the kind of delicate dance this team is trying to do this year, right? In that, like, if they were just a team that you could strictly say, okay, they're very much in development mode and rebuilding, and you can afford to lose some games because you're letting Precious spread his rings or try to spread his ring or maybe put him in uncomfortable spots and see what happens, right? And if you lose games because of it, you lose games because of it. But this team is also kind of, sort of trying to win, and they owe that top 6 protected pick to San Antonio, and, like, they still have Siakam here. Like, that's where it gets difficult because they're not this strictly developing, rebuilding team that can afford to necessarily lose all these minutes while they're experimenting with Precious. And to be honest with you, Otto Porter makes more sense a lot of nights with the way he plays and just how smart of a ball player he is if they're trying to win games. And again, it's like, how do you find that balance between, like you said, obviously no one wants to give up on Precious. They shouldn't give up on him.
Yeah.
But he needs time on the court to work through some things, to get more comfortable, for the Raptors to see if he can give them something close to what he was giving them at the end of that 2021-22 season. But if he's not out there, like, how does he prove it? But if he is out there, you're taking maybe minutes away from a guy like Otto who's actually helping you win right now. Like, it's a tough spot to be in.
It's a tough spot to be in. Gary, I didn't think the Raptors would have to straddle so hard in those two timelines because I thought the Raptors would need Gary this season. You need a shooting. You need, to have more than 2 guards in your rotation, right? And I don't think anyone's expected that Malachi will be playing ahead of Gary, or that Malachi would actually low-key be performing on par, if not slightly better than Gary, if we factor in both ends of the floor.
Last few games, he's been better, for sure.
I was going to say, if he's getting more time, it's deservedly so.
Last night, he was definitely better. I've seen Malachi wear the chain now. He's the first Raptors guard to wear the chain. I don't think Dennis has gotten it. I don't think Gary has gotten it. But anyway, what's up with Gary? Because obviously everyone saw the 2 missed free throws at the end. No one expects him to shoot 55% from free throw. Obviously got the plantar fasciitis that kept him out for a while too. I know it's kept Alex out of pickup basketball for 5 months. So anyway, maybe he's the guy to ask about this. But yeah, Wolfond, how do we get Gary back, man?
Yeah, I don't know because so much of it is just tied to the shooting, and the shooting hasn't been there. I'm not a shot doctor, so I can't give you like a magical mechanical fix.
He's not wearing an NN hat, right? He's not a shot doctor.
Shot doctors hate him. One secret fix to.
I mean, so somehow Dylan Brooks got in the Raptors practice facility for like a week, and with the Noah system that he credited with fixing his jump shot, and now he's like one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. But
for like 2 weeks, it looked like RJ was benefiting from it too.
Yeah, it works for everybody except the actual Raptors somehow. But
maybe you just need like 1 week with it instead of all year.
Can't overdo it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think it's in the meantime, because I do think the shot is going to come back to some extent. A, he's not going to shoot 55% from the free throw line all season. B, I think he's going to shoot better from behind the 3-point line as well. So in the meantime, can he just find ways to make himself useful, even if the shot isn't falling? And to me, that's just about like, even if he what is he shooting now from 3? Like 32, 33%, something like that?
I believe he's actually at his career average of 37 right now.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, I know. It's a huge surprise to everybody. Trust me. Yeah, he is at 38.3%.
Wow.
His career is 38.4.
What's he at from 2-point range? What's he at inside the arc?
Yeah, inside the arc is where it's really scary. It's at 37%. Last year, it was actually a career high for him at 49%. I actually thought he did a lot of good things inside the arc last year.
Well, yeah, like last year, he kind of discovered that floater game, right? Where that was a super effective counter for him when he got run off the arc. And that hasn't been there for him at all this year. I think the thing with Gary is like, even if he's not hitting his shots, which apparently he is way better than I thought he was.
No, it does not feel like 38. Yeah.
But like you could have him shooting 32% from 3 and Dennis shooting 40% from 3, which Dennis has been for most of this year. And Gary is still the one who's going to get guarded like a shooter. Like, this is the thing with Schröder. Like, he's been awesome, honestly, especially for what they've, been expecting or asking him to do as a mid-level exception guy. He's been awesome.
Especially on the Raptors show. By the way, Dennis is going to join us at the 3 o'clock hour.
There you go.
There you go.
Shooting, high 30% from 3, 55%, I think, on long twos this season.
Yeah.
Has not changed how he's guarded.
No.
Like, that's the thing. So, Gary still gets guarded like a shooter. If you are using him in off-ball actions that can attract defensive attention, pull defenders away from the central action, even if it's just as a decoy, then he's still going to be useful, right? And I think we have seen that at times. And I don't know, maybe at some point the fix is like, let's see how he, like, I think the lineups, like the starting lineups with him in those lineups have been pretty effective.
Yeah.
Whether that leads to an actual starting lineup change
Probably
at some
not.
point.
Probably not.
But I just think, having him play alongside the starters as often as possible is, like, I think the best way to get the most out of him, because having him run with those bench groups where he's being relied upon to do a little bit more with the ball in his hands, I feel like that's where it's really not going well.
Yeah, honestly, last night, it really dawned on me. I was like, when you have Gary, Chris, and Precious all on the floor making decisions, and I would extend Grady to this group, I would extend Jalen McDaniels to this group. When 3 of those guys are on, it just creates too much chaos, so much that it doesn't matter who the 2 starters with them are, right? You just need to have, and that's on them, honestly. That's really on them. You got to learn more and more, how to play A in this system, but also just B in general, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure a vet like Otto could go to any system and just be himself, right? That's a true skill. So these are things that they got to improve on. But to me, it's just watching Gary, I'm just kind of baffled. Like, I just don't understand. I know he's a quality player. And I know he didn't fall off suddenly at the age of 25.
Yeah, it's strange, man. The free throw shooting is the concerning part, right? Because
it could be mental, I guess.
Like, obviously, there's a history with Gary where we know he's a better shooter than this.
Yeah.
But, like, usually if you were evaluating, say, a young player who was struggling from deep, you'd look at the free throw shooting and be like, okay, there's a baseline there that they can be a good shooter because they're good from the free throw line. Gary, apparently, surprisingly, is actually shooting okay from deep, but his free throw shooting has gone in the tank. And that's why I made the Wiggins joke, because Wiggins has had this stretch now in his career where he's, had become a good three-point shooter, and for whatever reason, the free throw shooting tailed off. And I hope that's not the case with Gary. But the other thing with Gary, too, is, like, in addition to the poor decision-making with other poor decision-makers in that bench lineup, I just don't see those possessions. And I know some people will say, well, you don't want to see those because that means the offense has gone to crap. But I miss those possessions where, like, sometimes Gary would just have to bail out a possession, right? Like, the possession is stuck in the mud, and at least Gary, being one of the few guys on this team that can create his own shot and make a tough shot, would do so. And again, you don't want to have to rely on that. I get that. But it's also nice to have a guy who's capable of that.
Right.
Gary Trent has not looked capable of that this year. And they need to get that guy back, because I think we talked about it our first appearance on the show this season when we talked about some X factors. I don't remember who brought Gary up, but we talked about the fact that he literally one of the only guys on this team that can create his own shot. If he's not doing it and not being able to make those shots either, an offense that already has its challenges has another one.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, coming into the season, wouldn't you have expected him to be one of the guys who was really benefiting most from the new offensive system?
Yeah.
Like,
shooter, maybe with more movement,
more screening, more cuts, like all that stuff would seem to benefit him more than almost anybody. And that clearly hasn't been the case. And I almost feel the opposite of you. Like, yeah, it was nice to see sometimes when a possession would grind down, him bail them out with, like, one of his patented, step back mid-rangers. But I don't think you ever wanted to rely on that. And I think, if anything, there have been a few too many possessions this year where it's like they actually have pretty decent offensive flow, and he's the one who's kind of short-circuiting it by not making a quick decision or calling his own number when, there's a better option out there on the floor. So I think, I don't know. It's surprising to me that he's the one who has been, the kind of squeaky wheel in the offense some of the time when it seemed like it would be a little bit more seamless for him.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think sometimes we also take a short-sighted view on these things. It's like earlier the year when Pascal was struggling, it's like maybe he doesn't fit. And all of a sudden he comes into form, and I was like, wow, he looks great. Just takes time. I'm hoping it's the same thing for guys like Gary and Precious as well. Because, like, if you get them performing, all of a sudden you actually would feel pretty confident about this rotation.
But Pascal didn't fit with the way that they were using him early in the year.
Yeah, you're right. That is different.
Also, I'll bring up the fact, like, obviously...
Well, they were using him like he was supposed to be some, like, shooting guard or something.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. So it's like
who is a shooting guard? Gary Trent.
Like, they had to adapt the offense to him.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, yeah, we can't keep using him like he's Cam Johnson. It's like it just didn't make sense. So,
Right.
but I don't think they're doing anything that's like, oh no, you're really leaning away from Gary's strengths here. We got to maximize. It's not that they would do that anyway, because he's just not as much of a priority as some of the other players on the roster. But even process wise, I don't think there's anything you could point to and be like they're misusing Gary.
Right.
And I'll point out too, like we're obviously talking about this within the context of how it helps or hurts the Raptors this season and maybe going forward. But Gary Trent's in a contract here. Man.
Yeah.
Like,
and he chose to stay here, by the way, because he
picked up
the
that
player
option to re-enter free agency next year, bet on himself a little bit, and obviously thought he could get more guaranteed long term by waiting it out a year. And I hope for his sake that's the case, because we never want to see players losing money. But the way he started this season, like if I were him and his agent, I'd be a little nervous about what I'm doing to my value. So I know he's got obviously lots of time.
He does
to change that. We're 15 games into the season, 67 to go, but it has to start turning around soon, because again, even if you're just looking at it from the player's perspective, like this is not the way you want to go into free agency.
Yeah. Darko's got a lot to do, but last night he did a damn great job, man. Got the rotations right, got the timeouts right, got the after timeout plays right, and got the post-game chain right as well, giving it to Mally. Never knew that his nickname was Mally, but he's Mally Flynn from now on. It's like he's a hockey player or something. All right, we're going to take a quick break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. When we come back, we will look at potential first-time playoff teams. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou. Continue to be joined by the Pound and Rock Boys, Cash, Wolfond. Okay, so the Raptors played the Pacers last night. They played the Orlando Magic before that. Currently, right now, the Pacers at 8-6 and the Magic at 10-5 would both be slated to make the playoffs. I know everyone's looking in season tournament right now, but I'm looking long term at the full 82. And there's a number of breakout teams across the league. So I wanted to get your thoughts on, will these teams make the playoffs by year's end? All right, we'll start with those Pacers, 8-6, obviously number one offense in the league, historically dominant offense. They average 128, probably bumped up a little bit last night after scoring 131. They don't play any defense at all. Tyrese Halliburton is the modern day Steve Nash. Your thoughts? Are they going to make the playoffs? Yes or no?
I think they won't. I think they'll make the play-in and fall short of the playoffs. And that's coming from someone who's like a huge believer in Tyrese Halliburton and what they're building around him. I think the fact that they are so elite offensively gives them a path. Something I noted when I wrote about them last week is that the last time a top 5 offense missed the playoffs was the 2016-17 Nuggets, who also were 29th defensively while being 4th offensively. So usually a top 5 offense, even with a meh to bad defense, you make the playoffs. But if you just start like running through the teams in the East, I think you can get to 8 that will get in over the Pacers. And I also think like they need pristine health from Halliburton. When he isn't in there and on the court, the offense obviously, even though it tries to operate in a similar fashion, isn't nearly as effective, and the team just isn't as good. So if you could guarantee me that Tyrese Halliburton plays like 80 games, I'd say, all right, they're going to squeeze in there, but I just don't think that's realistic, and I think the margin for error will be too slim because of how bad the defense is. So as much as I like the Pacers, it's a long way of me saying I think they will be the first team since the 2016-17 Nuggets to miss the playoffs while having a top 5 offense.
I'll say yes, just because I think they'll be close enough to make it worth their while to make a trade at some point.
Okay.
I think that's kind of the path where they see fit to get a defensive-minded forward. Maybe there will be 1 or 2 of those available at the trade deadline, and I
Stop looking at the Raptors show sign when you say that. All right, you can't have OG.
Look,
I will never give him
they're
up.
just natural trade partners.
They really are, yeah.
So, yeah, whether it's one of the Raptors guys or, somebody that they can find elsewhere, I feel like, again, if they are even hovering around 500 and looks like they're going to have a pretty decent chance to get in, I just feel like even for a team that is young and that is building for the future, those playoff reps are valuable. And I think, obviously it's going to depend on the market and like what the going rate is for, like a 3-and-D combo forward. But I feel like it will be worth their while to make some kind of a push. It doesn't have to be like an all-in type of trade, but I think I think that's what'll sort of push them over the top and get them in.
They do have pieces because we did not see the Pacers at full strength last night. I mean, Aaron Nesmith has been a really good rotation player for them.
Shooting the lights out.
Andrew Nembhard has been great all 2 seasons of his career, I guess, so far. Jarris Walker, their lottery pick, has yet to feature much for them, and I think he's going down to the G League. But he could be an intriguing piece that could also potentially be moved. And as you mentioned, like, yeah, it really depends on what management wants to do with this group. They have a lot of, like, they have made some, like, win now pieces, I would suppose. Like Bruce Brown coming in here, I think helps push towards that direction. I think Obi Toppin, aside from whatever defense he was playing on the last play last night, thank you for that, Obi. But, you know, he's been a nice addition for them too. But I think, yeah, clearly they need a big, you know, two-way wing. Because if, like, this style is not going to work in the playoffs. And I don't know that that's always said about any up-and-coming high-scoring team. It was like, Sacramento's offense, that's not going to work in the playoffs. Turns out it did. It actually really did really well in round one.
You know what?
No?
I mean,
so
maybe I'm just remembering some of those games, but
well, no, I mean, the Kings, like, pushed that series to 7 because their defense was really
right.
good.
That is true.
And like the things that they were doing in the regular season that worked did continue to work in terms of just like pushing the pace. Like they continued to run. Like they played super fast, and so the adage that like the game really slows down in the playoffs and these teams that thrive in transition can't thrive that way in the playoffs was, I would say, proven mostly false by the Kings. But in the half court, their offense was really bad in that series. Like it was their ability to actually level up on defense that allowed them to make that a series against the Warriors. And I don't know that this version of the Pacers is actually capable of that.
Well, now I'm thinking about that series again, and it's just a lot of Looney and Draymond bullying Sabonis to the point where they stopped him at one point, but they also did a really great job guarding him in general. That really cut off a lot of their offense. I thought their guards were actually still okay in that series, I remember.
Fox was really good, and Monk had his moments for sure. But, I mean, Herder was absolutely terrible, and basically, I mean, in large part because of Herder, but also in part because of Sabonis and some of his limitations, the stuff that they built their offense around, like especially just the DHO stuff, completely dried up.
Right.
The Pacers, and I know we could probably say this for like 15 teams between now and February, but if there were ever an OG trade on the horizon, like the Pacers are a team, you can't find many teams where he fits and I think like optimizes that team better than Indiana. Because,
I agree.
Or Pascal.
Or Pascal for that matter too. But I like going into the season, before this Pacers team had played a game, I was already saying I think they were like a good forward away from being like fringe contenders.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you could plug either one of those guys in. I think OG maybe a little more seamlessly just because Halliburton can continue to dominate the ball in the offense the way he does, and Siakam being there maybe takes a little bit away from that. But I think either one are good fits there, and I think OG is just a bit of a more seamless fit there. But I mean, you could argue Siakam arguably makes more of an impact just based by being a better player.
Yeah, and Halliburton's a really good off-ball player, and I actually think getting another creator in there who could like take a little bit of the pressure off him in terms of having to orchestrate everything would be pretty beneficial. Like I don't think, I mean, either one of them I think would be really good fits, but I don't think just because, you know, Pascal is going to command more touches on offense that it would be any worse of a fit than OG.
Yeah. I'm also with you. If they make a trade for a 3-and-D wing that's like actually good, not just like they can't trade for like Jay Crowder and make me feel differently about this team.
Yeah.
But I do think that they probably squeak in. It'll probably be play-in though. Orlando Magic, we got to go a little quicker. Orlando Magic at 10-5. They for real or not?
They're the inverse. They're the inverse of the Pacers, right?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
dominant defense. I mean, in spite of what they did to the Raptors the other night, pretty tough sledding on offense. So if you're choosing between Indiana and Orlando, it's like, you know, what do you believe in more? A team that is airtight defensively or a team that is pretty much unstoppable offensively?
Orlando did just wreck them on the weekend, too. Not that we should be taking, you know, too much from a small sample, but there were one matchup, I think, so far this season. Orlando handled them pretty easily.
Yeah, but it's also like, you can say, okay, defense is going to hold up better in the playoffs. We're talking about who gets in. So really, if we're talking about these teams, it's like, what's going to hold up better in like a play-in game? Although the Magic right now are obviously in the top 6, but it's tough to say what wins in the play-in in the NBA today. And I don't
Patrick
really know.
Beverley.
DeAr DeRozan. Especially in combination.
So I kind of think Orlando's going to make it.
Yeah, they look solid to me.
I feel like, with them also, I guess maybe it's possible. It feels more unlikely to me, actually, that Orlando would make a trade than that Indiana would. But I guess, believe in their offense a little bit more than I believe in the Pacers' defense right now.
Yeah.
Just because in spite of the lack of shooting, they still have, like, a lot of creation. And I think they're number 1 in the league in rim volume. They're just relentless, man. Like, they just drive and bully you and get to the rim, and they sort of have those kind of workarounds for the lack of spacing, and I feel like they can eke out enough offense to make their defense really carry the day.
And more shot creators too, right? Like, even though Indiana's offense statistically is way better and runs smoother and all that, Orlando actually has much more shot creation, which if you do believe that the game will bog down at all in a play-in or the playoffs in that time of the year when you need a guy who can just go create a shot for himself and get a bucket in the areas that defenses want you to take shots from, the Magic have more of those guys than Indiana does.
Yeah. The Magic, too, is like they're running a really deep rotation, but it's all young guys, basically. They have one guy over 30. Joe Ingles is randomly there. All right. Shouts to Mark Bartelstein for getting that 2-year deal done with Joe Ingles.
Jinglin' Joe.
They have 3 players in the rotation who are over 25. They're Mo Wagner, Jonathan Isaac, and
Gary Harris.
Gary Harris. They're all coming off the bench too, so it's like they're really doing it really well. They're deep. Like, they're second in the league in terms of just their points off the bench. It's like 45 per game. And that bench is also outscoring opponents generally when they play too. And they just got a win over Denver. And Jalen Suggs, man. I mean, Jalen Suggs, man. I'm really happy for him because he really has not had anything to be like super happy about in his career to date. And so, no, seriously, like
in his NBA career,
yes, NBA career for sure. But like, he is still a talented young player, and I feel like he's finding his lane. And it's for young guys to buy into defense this early in their career. It's cool, man.
Easily a top 5 backcourt defender in the NBA so far this season. Easily.
Yeah.
Like, point of attack, switching on to bigger players, guarding the post, on ball, in help. He's been a monster.
Yeah.
Like, that game against the Raptors.
Yeah.
And I'd watched like a bunch of Magic games already this season, so I knew that he'd been excellent defensively, but that was like, he blew up like 15 to 20 Raptors possessions just with his activity level. And from the opening tip of that game, it felt like he had something to prove. He had a vendetta, which is like, I don't know. It's always funny to me, like the idea of a Jalen Suggs revenge game against the Raptors.
Yeah.
For not taking him after he supposedly had a terrible workout, but
they must have not run through defensive
he had a point to
drills.
prove, and he proved it.
Yeah, no, I love taking Alex Caruso with the 5th overall pick. All right, we got 90 seconds left to talk about the Houston Rockets. 7-6 after a 1-point loss to the Lakers, a 1-possession loss to the Warriors, and a James Harden step back and 1 loss to the Clippers. They're still 7-6. They're 4th in defensive rating. This is after being 29th last year, 30th the year before that, and 27th 3 seasons ago. They're really great at keeping opponents out of the paint. We got like 30 seconds each for both of you. Are they going to make the playoffs, yes or no? Is this real?
I think it's real. I think they're solid, but I think the West is too deep for them to make that jump right now. I think they'll be solid and in the picture all year. I don't think they'll end up being one of the 8 teams in the playoffs in the West.
Yeah, I agree. I think Şengün's been amazing. And so that gives me some hope, especially just like his 2-man game with Fred. That gives me some hope that the offense can remain pretty solid. I think the defense is going to come back to earth. It's been like they've been benefiting a little bit from shooting luck, and I just don't think they're like a top 5 defense. I think that's going to pull them down eventually. Play-in, yes. Playoffs, they probably know.
I was going to say, I would love to see them in a play-in. This is an easy team to root for me. All right. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on the show. We have to take another break before we bring in Dennis Schröder. So I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Win Lou. Continue to be, well, actually, no, not continue to be joined. I'm sorry. I'm so used to saying that. But I'm joined now by co-host Blake Murphy. What's going on? We're going to interview Dennis Schröder when we get him on the line shortly, and we'll cut to him. But Blake, how you doing, man? Big win last night.
Yeah, very big win. Very fun one. some of the bad stuff. They did get down double digits again.
Yeah,
and they
course.
did have to work extra hard to make their way back. But nice to see a night where the offense is clicking, and that is Indiana Pacers defense that is comfortable letting you get going, and that can be helpful. I guess my biggest question coming out of that game, because obviously there are a ton of positives, both individual and team-wise, but 8th time in 10 games they fall down double digits. Is this finally the time we see some carryover between, hey, did the comeback, got out of the hole, erased the mistakes, now let's not do that next game? Chicago comes in tomorrow really struggling, and they're a team that, you know, especially with Zach LaVine up in his status up in the air to play in that one, that's a team you kind of want to punch in the mouth like you did with, you know, who did they do that to? Detroit.
Oh yeah. Listen, I would feel a lot of satisfaction doing that to the Bulls, because obviously I think the Bulls definitely feel quite confident about playing against the Raptors. You know, just based on what's happened earlier this year, based on what happened in the play-in as well, based on the fact that DeMar obviously has a lot of familiarity with still a lot of the guys here. But yeah, I mean, the slow start's interesting to me, because I'm just like, watching it yesterday, it was just like, come on, guys. Like, I think my first tweet of the night was just yikes. It was no context, just yikes. But the context was the Raptors fell down 10-2 right away.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think
on 5 field goal attempts for the Pacers.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So it's like, on one hand, you would want to say, like, maybe it's the starting lineup, and that's not really working, and that's why they're getting into a deficit. But I don't really feel like that's the case.
No, the starting lineup still has like pretty solid numbers. Like, not the best starting lineup in the league, but anytime you have OG, Pascal, and Scotty on the floor together, things are going really well for the most part. I think the interesting rotation and like starting pattern thing last night was that for the first time, we didn't see that late first quarter, early second quarter be a problem. I don't know how much you guys talked about that in the first segment, but 2 pretty important rotation tweaks that I saw in the game. Did you guys cover that in the first hour?
We covered a little bit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, one is Otto Porter being in there. You and I talked about it the other day. You know, question mark as to why he's not being used. And even if the answer is like, well, we're leaning developmentally, you know, that's obviously not something they're doing throughout the entire rotation. So once again, Otto comes in, things look a little smoother in those transitional lineups. They're now 5-2 when he plays real minutes in a game. So that was encouraging. And then the other thing was they didn't leave any individual starter on an island with a whole bench unit. Now, the byproduct of that was that OG, Pascal, and Scotty played 36, 38, and 39 minutes, and the rotation didn't go 10 deep. So that's probably not something that you do every night. That's probably not something that you do on the second night of a back-to-back. Certainly, if the first game doesn't go in a way that you rest everyone for the fourth quarter. So, you know, that's one that'll be harder to maintain, I think. But I did like that, you know, it wasn't Scotty on an island with 4 bench pieces that don't fit that well together. You know, OG was with him for a chunk of it. You know, there was a Pascal and Jakob with 3 bench players, chunk of it. I think, you know, as much as they can without shrinking the rotation too much, keeping a second starter there is probably for the best.
Yeah, I agree. Darko did a really good job managing the game yesterday. And joining us on the line to discuss that game and more is Dennis Schröder, making his weekly appearance on the Raptor Show. What's going on, Dennis? Congrats on the win, man. That was a big one last night.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a big-time win yesterday.
Yeah. Okay, I want to start with the last play. Darko calls timeout. You guys are down 1, and he's got to drop something good to obviously get you guys up ahead. And the play was for Scotty to get the ball in the post, a little fake handoff to Pascal. The defense bites, and he gets downhill for the dunk. Take us into that timeout. What's Darko like in that huddle, and what are you guys thinking about and preparing about for that final play?
Yeah, I mean, it was the timeout. You know, coach did a great job of drawing up the play. And everybody, you know, listening, because it was intense. You know, we went back and forth a little bit in the game. And, I mean, Darko did a great job just putting people in the right places. And, I mean, Scotty, you know, finished it off with the and one. And, I mean, there was just a team effort we did yesterday. Great moving the ball, just everybody just staying locked in. And, yeah, we needed that one.
So obviously that, you know, the high elbow DHOs are something you guys are doing more of. In this case, Indy kind of bites. 2 guys go to the middle thinking Pascal's going to get the ball on the handoff, and that's what gives Scotty the lane to kind of go right. When Pascal is having a game like that, or any teammate is having a game like that, what is it like to play off of that? Like Pascal's drawing 2 in the post every time, or back when you were playing with LeBron, you know, what his post-ups would do to a defense. How does it, you know, change what you're doing, and just what is it like to play with someone who has it going to that degree?
I mean, it's always great. You know, the attention is to that player, but I think it makes everybody else, you know, have to make a decision, or, you know, have to create for others or be aggressive. Because, I mean, when Pascal Siakam got it in the post and he got it going like that, people is going to bite, you know, and coming from the top, it's going to be 2 guys on him, and then it's going to be 1 guy, you know, open in the corner, or, you know, on the 45. So I think we did a great job of just keep moving it. And, you know, he didn't force anything. He was just, you know, aggressive in the system, did a great job of pushing the ball as well, and got transition layups. And I think it's going to be really tough to, you know, to beat us if we play in that way.
Yeah. Well, I actually looked at the numbers because, as you mentioned, one of those exact sequences in the fourth quarter happened. Pascal was posting. The help came from the top. That was your man, and he kicked it out to you for the 3. I think that was after the Pacers went up 7. And then another play where Pascal drove. The help came off of OG in the corner. He kicked it to OG for the 3 as well. So I looked it up. You have 22 assists to Pascal in the season. That's the second most to any other player. Number 1 is Jakob, obviously. You and Yak in the pick and roll. You got 23 assists to Jakob. And in terms of players who has assisted you, Pascal has assisted you 16 times. The next closest player who has assisted you the most is 8 from Scotty. So you and Pascal clearly have like a nice little 2-man thing going on right now. Have you guys had conversations between the 2 of you in terms of like, hey, you know, I like the ball here. You know, when you go here, I'm going to be here. You know, like what are those conversations like? Because it's clearly working in terms of the assists back and forth between you 2.
Yeah, I mean, it makes my job easy. You know, if we kicking the ball ahead and people are just aggressive in the open court and transition, getting stops. And then, you know, I want to do the same thing to OG as well. I talked to him yesterday. Just when we get a stop, just pass it ahead. And it's going to be tough to guard those guys. You know, OG, Scotty, and Pascal in the open court one-on-one is either a foul or, you know, a bucket. So, I mean, me and Pascal, you know, have been talking about it, try to get, you know, everybody on the same page. And then when he got it in the post, and I'm ready to shoot the ball, you know, or drive it once he kicks it out, I just got to be ready and make the right decision. And I mean, I put so much, you know, work into my shot that I'm trusting it, and I just got to keep shooting them.
On the other side of that game last night, obviously it was a high-scoring one. Tyrese Halliburton put up some real big numbers. I thought, you know, you guys and OG especially did a pretty good job trying to slow him down, but he is on a pretty high level right now. What have you seen from Halliburton's growth, and, you know, how tough was that for you guys defensively last night?
I mean, they still lost. We got the job done, but he is he's one hell of a player, man. I mean, I played him in the summer as well. He didn't do that same, you know, he's not that type of player when he plays with Indiana. He's just on a different level, and he's just, you know, running the show there, you know, just having fun. You can tell like he's smiling, you know, and he like have a good pass, or he's the engine for them and the head of the snake, and he's doing a great job. And, you know, he's up there in the conversations for you know, MVP right now, because I mean he's playing like it. And I mean, it's always happy to see, you know, young guys coming into this league and have such an impact like that. It's always great. And he's gonna be a great player in this league, and a superstar in this league for sure.
Yeah, Dennis, I guess I didn't appreciate the fact that, yeah, you guys did beat them. Obviously, as part of your run to the World Cup, I think that was the semifinals, right? And then you guys went on to beat Serbia in the final as well.
And then someone else beat USA in the bronze medal game too.
Oh,
it was Canada.
I think I heard about that one. I think, Gordy Herbert might have also played a role in that team once upon a time. Actually, I was going to ask you too, because I saw a lot of people point this out on Twitter. After the final shot went up, I think Buddy Hield shot it from like 40. He was open, but, you know, it's still pretty far out. Shot misses. You guys got the rebound. Raptors win. and someone pointed out that you turned around and looked at Tyrese, gave him a little point. So we got to follow up. What happened there? Was there like
I mean,
talking
he's
back and forth? What happened?
yeah, it was a little, competitive, like the game is, you get emotional, competitive, a lot of edgy, plays. And I mean, me and him going back and forth, since I think 2 years when he got to Indiana. We had a game there with the Lakers, and we was competing. People was talking smack, going back and forth.
Okay.
It's a two-way street, though. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's always the competitive spirit in me and in him. And he was talking when they was up as well, and I had to talk back when we got the win finally. So that's about it. Just being competitive and everybody just enjoying being out there and competing, for a win.
Yeah. Well, listen, I gotta ask you another follow up then, because not about Tyrese, just in general. What's your process for trash talk? Like, does someone have to talk to you first before you respond? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm a compete, on the highest level. Try to, beat the point guard who I'm playing against. Try to, outplay him. But I mean, at the end of the day, I remember when I got to the league, and back in the day, it was. Now the league got a little bit, not softer, but like a little bit more sensitive about, talking. I think Giannis dunking on somebody, and he just, was flexing like he always do, and got a technical and got kicked out for that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, it was never like that. But at the end of the day, if people are talking to me, I'm never going back down, and I love it when people talk to me because I'm a talk back, and then it's going to be competitive the rest of the game. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. You said your vet back in the day was Jeff Teague, right? Just listening to the podcast, I'm sure there was a lot of trash talk, even in practices and stuff.
But he was never like that though. I
Oh,
gotta say,
okay.
like,
All right.
I mean, he now that he's not a basketball player no more, he opens up.
Yeah,
Like
got you.
he's telling stories. But I mean, trash talking sometimes here and there when somebody talks to him or talk to him. But he was not like a trash talker going out there and just talk smack like Pat Bath right now. Like
yeah, got you.
he was not that type of player.
Yeah.
Do you? I know you and Jakob have said you sometimes communicate in German. Do you trash talk in German sometimes too? And another player looks at you and like knows you're trash talking but doesn't know what you're saying?
We had a situation yesterday. TJ McConnell, I was talking to him. I was talking to Yak in German, but he tried to listen. Like he couldn't understand it, and he looked around. He was like, there was a funny moment, and then we scored out of it too. So that was pretty impressive and pretty cool. I mean, it's always great, that you can communicate without people knowing, and I think we used it as our, advantage for sure.
Yeah. All right. We want to move away a little bit just from the games. Hey, I want to let you know. So I called Coach. I called Livu Kalin. I called him yesterday.
Oh, you did?
I did. Yeah. He was
Nice. Okay.
I texted him. It was like 10 p.m. over there. I know he's in like his 70s almost, but he's like, anytime for Dennis, man. Any questions you got about
For
Dennis?
sure.
So I called him just to get a little more background about your story, and he had a lot of great things to say. But I think one thing he pointed out to me was it's really important as someone who coached you, obviously from a very young age, he told me it's very important if you want to get the best out of Dennis, you need to empower Dennis, and you need to make him feel really involved and make him not the leader, not the go-to guy, but really, really involved in whatever project, whatever team. And I'm thinking about what you did with Germany this past summer, and then what you did or what you're doing with the Raptors right now. Can you speak to that idea that your coach is talking about, how much, it changes a player's game when you really put the trust and keep them involved?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the reason why Malachi is playing great right now in this role, because I think coach doing a great job of just telling him, listen, like, we want you to run the team. When you get in there, be aggressive, just don't think about anything. And if you have that trust, from your starting PG or from Scotty or from Pascal Siakam and your coach, you're just going out there and play, and I think with the national team, I got, like freedom to do whatever, but I'm still the, like one of the hardest working guys out there. And I mean, coach is right, because Coach Darko, he gives me freedom, and he tells me, yo, you got to be aggressive. I want you to be, the Germany Dennis. But at the end of the day, we got so much talent in this room as well, or in the locker room, that I want to, make sure we involve everybody, and we playing team basketball. And we still figuring it out. I mean, it's 13 games in, I believe, and we game by game we're gonna be better. And I think we just got to keep getting better every single day, every single practice, every single game, and then we're gonna be really good and hard to stop.
Yeah. It's a great point about Malachi, man. Happy for Malachi. Yesterday, you got the chain as well.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't think Malachi got the chain
game,
before
man.
You got the chain. By the way,
I ain't got no chain yet, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always happy for people who's stepping up. I think Mel, he did a great job just coming in, hitting 2 threes,
Yeah.
then the floater, I believe. I mean, he changed the game for us, because we was down, when I got out, and then I think we got the lead when he got in. So really happy to see it, and I told him he got to keep stacking those games and keep helping us. And if the bench is always helping us getting the lead or keeping the lead, it's going to be really, really hard to stop us.
Yeah, we even saw more and more of what Malachi and playing alongside you in those 2 point guard lineups. We saw Darko put Malachi into the game for his defense as well. That's all great to see, and his swagger does look different, man. I got to tell you, like we've seen Malachi's whole career. He's been kind of low on confidence, but this year it's different. Even the way he was posing with the chain. The other question I want to ask you from this conversation with Li Vu is, he said, you were very emotional towards teammates growing up. You always wanted to win. It always came from a place of competitiveness, but you were never afraid to confront guys and be the leader on the team and sort of put them in positions and challenge them to be better. So I want to ask you, are you still the same way? Is that still the same emotion, or have you found a different way to channel that with your players now? Obviously, being 30 and 10 years in the league now.
If you've seen the national against Slovenia, and I got into with Daniel Tice and the coach, of course I'm gonna keep people accountable. But I wouldn't keep people accountable if I wouldn't, try to do my best every single night. And I mean, I'm gonna raise my voice if I think somebody is not, doing their best or they can do better. I'm gonna try to empower them, to give them more, power and more energy to come out and say, okay, I got you guys, and I wish when I ever, do that or in that situation that people coming to me, because I think it's always a two-way street. It's always, for us getting better, getting better as a team and seeing the, the bigger picture. And I think when Mel came one time to me in the game, he was like, yo, be aggressive, and I mean, I want everybody, the last man to the best person come and say, yo, listen, I need you to be better. I need you to do this, and it's better for us as a team. I think people keep people accountable as a whole group is great. And I didn't see that too much in the NBA. And if we do that, I think we can, reach a lot of things.
Yeah, I liked your point too, because you will talk to everybody on the team. Like, I think last play of the first half yesterday, you guys gave up a corner 3. I think Miles Turner got a corner 3 to end the first half. And I think you had a chat with Scotty just about that exact play at the very end there, in terms of the rotations and all that kind of stuff. So you will talk to everybody, and that's how you keep people accountable. You can't treat the 15th man different than the way you treat from the top guy or the second guy, so. Yeah.
And I believe in that. And I think Coach Darko, I had so many talks with him as well. He believes in it too. And I mean, I think that's the reason why Toronto got me as well, and they try to change the system a little bit, got the right coach for it, and I'm a team player and try to bring everybody together. And of course, with that summer, what we had as a team was amazing. And we just try to build, more here in Toronto.
All right. We got to get you out, but 2 more questions just on watching your vlog. If everyone hasn't seen already on YouTube, make sure you go watch Dennis's vlogs. Make sure you watch your wife's vlogs too. Joel's vlogs,
Yeah,
man. Like
yeah.
nothing happens in your life without it happening on the vlog, apparently.
Joel is right now recording as well. Like y'all guys can't see him, but he's recording right
oh
there.
yeah, what's up, guys? Hey, like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Okay. One thing. So from last week's vlog, maybe Alphonso Davies showed up. In the Pistons game. Yeah, Alphonso Davies. The rest of Team Canada was there. What's your connection with Alphonso, man? Are you guys friends? Like, what's going on? How'd you guys meet?
We met like 5 years ago, I think, or 4 years ago. When he first got to Germany, he played in Wolfsburg. That's like 30 minutes from my hometown. We watched him play there because he had a hell of a hype. You know, he came from the MLS, and we was just supporting and watched the game. And then from there on, you know, we got connected. And every summer when I'm in Munich, you know, I get to see him, getting, you know, dinner, talk about life, you know, and he's a great guy. I think he's one of the best guys, you know, in soccer as a person, and of course on the court. And I mean, always great seeing him. And I mean, I always appreciate that he's, you know, showing love.
Yeah. Well, I gotta ask you then, who's quicker between you two? 100-meter race, who's winning between you and Alphonso Davies?
That's a tough one.
You guys are both rapid.
Yeah, he's pretty fast, but I'm always counting on me.
Yeah.
You know that. Like I'm always, but he's up there. It's gonna be like a real. It's gonna be a race.
Yeah, we need to do that one on the vlog. All right, last one. I was just watching this before going on air, man. You said so. Apparently, in the Orlando game, the bus got delayed to the arena because 4 Raptors got stuck in an elevator for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, not stuck though, but the elevator wasn't working.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
We tried to press it for like 10 minutes, and the elevator was off, and we couldn't go down. It was like on the 16th floor, so we didn't try to take the stairs either. So we had to wait for like 10 minutes to get down. That's probably the reason we lost, because we wasn't ready.
Yeah. All right, Dennis. We'll see you back at the game tomorrow. Raptors play Chicago, and we'll talk to you again on the show next week. All right.
Perfect, man. Thank you, guys.
Dennis Schröder. Honestly, a 100-meter race between him and Alphonso Davies would be sick. I actually need to see that.
Alphonso Davies Bayern is the only football kit I have.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A friend was in Germany and brought it back for me.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard. Because he, you know, the next kit that he'll go or get will probably be Real Madrid. So, yeah, no, I don't have to tell anybody in Canada how good Alphonso Davies is.
I thought about wearing it in today, knowing you were probably going to bring that up with Dennis, but I can't. I look weird in a lot of stuff, but yeah, a soccer kit, I don't think it's the look for me.
All right. Well, what if we bring in the producer and co-host Alex Wong, who's tapping his feet? A man who has a lot of washed feet and a lot of soccer kits as well, man.
A lot of what?
Never mind. It's a banter pod topic that was so stupid. But yeah, well, you know.
No, we should do it. We should do
a
soccer kit day sometime, man.
I'm 100% down.
Oh yeah, I'm talking to the wrong guy.
I'll do the whole week.
Week, month, whatever.
Yeah.
No, this what okay. Let's get Blake's rankings on this too. Like basketball, football, hockey. What did I miss?
Baseball.
Yeah, 4 jerseys. Which easiest and hardest to rock?
Well, you
as
put
a
soccer in this one
civilian.
too.
As a
Yeah,
civilian,
soccer.
Yeah.
Easiest
I think
to wear.
I think hockey's easiest.
Yeah,
Really?
I'm finding that.
Yeah. I mean, basketball, you've got to have the guns out. Like you don't want to be like Norman Powell coming off a shoulder injury where you got the full sleeves underneath. Like I don't think that's a great look just walking around.
You can't be UCLA Kevin Love.
Yeah,
Oh God.
yeah, exactly. And then baseball is just they're just not that nice. Like the upside isn't there.
Really?
Yeah, like
Baseball's a little bit too like specific. Like
Yeah.
you're in a baseball jersey.
No,
like,
but it's
like,
kind of
what
nice.
are you doing?
Though. It's just like it's just a big T, really.
No, it's got
Yeah.
the button up and stuff.
Yeah.
There are like
All right.
some look. I have like an old school Pirates Roberto Clemente that is a pullover jersey,
Oh,
and that is like good.
That's kinda hard.
Like you
Yeah.
just wear it like a sweater basically, and it was their official jersey at one point. But yeah, for the Jays had the baby blue ones that you could pull over as well for a little while.
Yeah.
Those ones you could do, but I still
Yeah.
think a hockey is just like generally easier to
Yeah.
work into the day to day.
American football is not that bad. I don't own a lot of
I don't
American
know.
football jerseys.
I think basketball is the toughest as a civilian, right? Like
It
if
is,
it's
yeah.
the summer, if you're hooping, if you're at the beach, sure.
Yeah,
But like,
you had a
yeah.
music festival.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're at Coachella 2030,
Damn, that's coming up.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know how you just like, especially in Canada, like you wearing your basketball jerseys anytime.
My rule is basketball
Only
jerseys.
to basketball.
Basketball jerseys for hooping.
Yeah,
I feel like basketball jerseys look best when you're hooping, and then as a
which is a funny thing to
My boy Kai's gonna
extrapolate
get mad
then
at me.
because like
It's
imagine,
also cultural, guys.
Yeah, I can only wear the football jersey when I'm playing football. When I'm on the gridiron.
I am looking for a vintage New York Jets jersey, so
Okay.
maybe a little wink.
You're looking
or
for a
bet.
Nick Kiprios jersey, bro.
I have sources working on a Nick Kiprios.
Even though
Kipper,
every single day.
I
at the
know you
office-
played for the North Bay Centennials, man. I'm contacting them.
Yeah, that's wild. No,
If the
'cause
St. John's Maple Leafs still existed.
Yeah.
no. What's interesting about baseball to me is like, so all the other kids are like,
What's
For
interesting
form.
about you talking about baseball?
no, it's for like the form of the sport, right? Like for
Yes.
basketball, you need the sleeves off because you're shooting.
Yeah.
For football, you need a big baggy jersey so you can put pads on it.
Yep.
Same thing for hockey. For baseball, why does it have buttons? Like, how does that relate to the sport? at
Blake
all?
might got to tell us this too. Like, why are they still wearing belts and stuff?
Yeah, why
Wouldn't
are
they
they
run a
wearing
little
a
faster
belt?
in shorts?
Well,
I know they have to
shorts-
slide.
yeah,
Yeah,
shorts
the
gotta
issue with
slide.
shorts is you'd cut your leg. Now, look, someone who slides at a major league player's level
Uh-huh.
is going to do that without scraping up the front of their leg.
Whatever.
But like, if I'm sliding in a
Yeah.
slow pitch tournament, yeah, I'm gonna have my legs scraped up.
Okay, but
I don't
why
have to
belts and
take-
buttons though? Like, it's a form.
I mean, part of it is just the tradition of it. Like,
Okay.
it's
Right.
it's the same with like, like in baseball, the coach is in uniform, which is really funny compared to other sports.
Yeah.
Although basketball's kind of getting there now with how just like
The little
casual
warm-ups,
everyone
the
is. Yeah,
warm-ups that they wear.
everyone's in a quarter zip.
No. The funniest thing about basketball, the coaches is like the 11 assistants on the Raptors all have to drip. They all have to
Yeah.
drip gold when it's the in-season tournament.
Yeah.
It's like James Wade wakes up. He's like,
Even the
can I
PR
just pick
staff.
my own? Can I just pick my own wardrobe today?
Even the PR
Like-
staff was in gold.
Oh, that's right.
That was
That's right.
hilarious. Josh Sue dripping gold.
No, Phil Summers was dripping, man.
They're like, no Garrett Temple interview, but you can drip gold.
By the way, yeah, speaking of the wardrobe, like, shouts to Garrett Temple.
Yeah.
Like, I've been noticing the trend now because, all the fit pics, like, his commitment to wearing the full, like, blazer,
Yeah,
dress
right.
pants, like, it's a full commitment.
I tweeted this yesterday in reply, just like being nonsense replies to the Raptors account, being like, I need Garrett to let me know, like, what is the garment bag? What is the process for carrying multiple suits for multiple cities with you? Like, I've had to pack a suit before, but you put it in the suit bag, you have to fold it over, you have
Yeah.
to put it in checked luggage, and then you almost definitely have to iron or get it, like, pressed when
Yeah.
you land. Now, he's an NBA player. He could probably afford to just be like, brush press this
Mhm.
immediately for me. But I wonder, like, what is he rolling around with like a carry-on steamer?
Yeah.
Or is he doing Eric Smith replied and was like, just hang it on the back of the door and have like run a hot shower? I don't want to be
The
that
Smitty
wasteful.
hot shower method.
I don't want to be that wasteful. So I want to know what the whole process is here for Garrett Temple.
What
Yeah.
Temple needs is a second apron, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yo, no. What you guys talking about? We talking about bags. Giannis ain't got no bag, but Garrett Temple got a garment bag.
By the
That's
way,
hard.
Matt Devlin just texted in
Yeah.
and said in the mid 70s, the White Sox went to shorts for a while and it did not go well.
Well,
Interesting.
another bad idea by me. Devlin in studio joining us tomorrow.
That's a no, that's a
On-air
good
reminder,
idea.
Devlin. Please
That's a
be here
good
at
idea.
Please be here at 2:15.
And honestly, we're talking Garrett Temple. We'll probably have him on the show as well tomorrow as well. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Welcome back to The Raptors Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. I'm your host, Wim Lou. I'm joined now, finally, by my co-hosts, Blake Murphy, Alex Wong. Alex, take over the reins, please.
Sorry, it's been a while. Yeah, so a couple of items from around the NBA. First thing, last night, the San Antonio Spurs were hosting the Los Angeles Clippers. And, noted public enemy Kawhi Leonard was back in the building, still getting booed by the fans. And yeah, midway through the game as Kawhi was shooting free throws, here's a clip of Greg Popovich grabbing the mic and addressing the crowd.
Excuse me for a second.
Pops on
Can
the
we
mic.
stop all the booing and let these guys play? It's got no class. It's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
Pop telling the fans to lay off Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
The little at the end was hard, man. What was that, Bayou Sports?
First of all, how are we feeling about Greg Popovich interrupting mid-game to tell the fans to stop booing Kawhi?
That part is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm honestly surprised he didn't get a technical foul. Like, I tried to look
Yeah.
up. I can't I can't find an actual rule about it.
Yeah.
But like you would think there would be. I guess you would never think it would happen. So why would you put a rule in? But like, hey, the coach can't grab a live mic during play and
hard.
talk. So I'm a little surprised you didn't get a tech. But also, Will, sorry to you go this way with it, but Alex, you're a wrestling guy. If you ask a crowd not to boo, what are they going to do? Boo back way more.
Yeah. So this is my second question. You know, did Pop have an ulterior motive? Was he actually trying to get the crowd to boo Kawhi Leonard, public enemy number one, even harder?
Move this man!
What is Greg Popovich's age? Yeah, he's 74, right? Like, no, come on. Like, he's coached in, like,
He's coaching the ABA.
20, 30, 40,
he's
40
coached,
years, maybe?
He's coached in the Army.
Like, obviously he knows that this is strange. This is not the first time that he's had a player booed. It's not the first time Kawhi's come back to San Antonio and he's been booed. So I'm really curious as to what actually specifically
Like why
made him
last
do
night?
this.
Like why last night? It wasn't like LeBron coming back to Cleveland for the first time after leaving Miami type.
Well, I also think that, like, look, Spurs fans, Kawhi left them in a way where it was like, okay, we should probably boo this guy. You know,
Sure.
like, despite the championship, I could see why people would be super upset.
Yeah.
Toronto, there's obviously Kawhi's not going to be booed in Toronto ever.
Yeah, boo R.C. Buford for the trade package.
Yeah.
And like this is the thing.
Like-
I mean, Raptors fans have dealt with this in the past too, right?
Well,
Where
it's
like
just booing.
if you want to boo Damon, if you want to boo Vince, like
We
what?
booed Goran Dragic for multiple years.
Okay, but he asked for that.
You instigated that.
Goran Dragic.
I also booed from the 600s.
You
Goran
instigated
Dragic
that.
also posted a picture of his team winning the Eurobasket International Tournament to chirp the Raptors.
Oh.
The Toronto Raptors of the NBA, with
Yeah.
mostly American players and then everyone scattered, are not allowed to enter the European Championships.
Bench players talking like starters. I hate it.
Yeah.
Board op talking like talent.
Ooh, that's what I said to JR.
Adulting.
SN party recap coming soon. But yeah,
brother.
so
Yeah.
Pop said after the
Hard.
game, he said, anybody who knows anything about sports, you don't poke the bear.
Okay.
Kawhi was asked if he was bothered by this, and he said, quote, they're probably going to boo me the rest of my career. They're one of the best fans in the league and very competitive. Once I step on this court, they show that they're going for the other side. But when I'm on the streets or going into restaurants, they show love. Yeah. He's getting, Derek's on fire. They're getting, so you're just saying he's getting Kawhi and dined in San Antonio as well?
He said, keep that same energy when I walk into the taco spot, which is kind of what I imagine is
Anyways,
there
the
to eat in San
funniest thing
Antonio.
to me is like, if you were to pick the least bothered person to be booed at a road arena, it would be Kawhi Leonard. So
For
like,
real,
I
yeah.
think Kawhi was fine.
I also like poking the bear with booze. I think the bear is like permanently poked because he had serious degenerative knee and quad issues, and you told him he was making it up until he asked out.
Well,
Yeah.
even you remember, even Tony Parker at the time, he's like, well, I had a quad injury that was much worse, and I'm back.
Remember when Danny Green came to Toronto and was like, oh yeah, by the way, last year I was playing, I think it was like a torn groin. By the way, I was playing through this.
Yeah.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Medical staff malpractice.
Remember when Danny Green was Kawhi Leonard's personal PR person? Everybody who wanted to ask a question to Kawhi just asked it to Danny instead.
So Danny, what does Kawhi think about when a defense reacts
So,
like
Danny,
this
you
to
went-
his pull up?
You went 6 for 7 from 3 tonight, scored 23 points in the comeback win. How's Kawhi doing?
What flavor did Kawhi get at Wingstop on the road?
Danny, can you please hand this chain over to Kawhi Leonard?
The funniest thing was Danny obviously had inside the green room, and he has it now too.
Yeah.
Shouts to Harrison Stanford too.
Chelsea Harrison and Amjad.
And Amjad as well. But he got pretty much every teammate on that show.
Except for
got-
for Kawhi.
You got head coaches on that
You
show.
got Kyle.
Got Nav Bachi on the show. Even I was in the background of one of the shows. But no Kawhi. No Kawhi.
No
Emotional
Kawhi.
damage.
Yeah, not Kawhi.
Another rivalry that was reignited last night was between Christopher Paul and Scotty Foster. So CP was visibly upset on the court, arguing with Scott Foster. Got one tech. They kept talking. Got a second tech. Steve Kerr got a tech when he intervened as well. And Chris Paul, I think every NBA fan knows about the history with Scott Foster, and talked about it a little bit after the game. Talked about how the situation is actually personal. And when he was with the Clippers, he actually needed to sit down with Scott Foster, Doc Rivers, and I think Chris Paul's dad was involved in this sit down as well. I mean, I've talked about Scott Foster before. Like, it is really strange that aside from this, like, Chris Paul rivalry, like, Scott Foster was very visibly named in, like, all the Tim Donaghy stuff. There's a lot of calls between them and stuff. This just seems like a subplot that the NBA doesn't need.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Haberstroh pulled some data on it, and it's remarkable. So Scott Foster has refereed 20 of Chris Paul's playoff games. They were favored in 15 of those, and they went 3-17 with an average loss margin of 11.2. They got blown out on average, and they were favored in 15 of those 20. Like 20 games even is still like small sample by the picture of, big data and stuff, but it's hard not to think that there's something there with Scott Foster and his short fuse with Chris Paul and probably how quickly he riles up when Scott Foster does something. Like we know that refs and players have personal relationships. We know that Fred VanVleet last year blew up not because of just Ben Taylor in that game, but a pattern of interactions he's had with Ben Taylor. Everyone's human. It's impossible it's not realistic to think that players and referees cannot let their personal relationships affect what's going on.
They need a couples retreat.
Oh God!
Like they need like some sort of like activity, man.
Input,
like
Will.
they got to go to the spa together. They got to get some massages. Just like talking through, man. Get a coffee or something. Like I actually like the idea of them sitting down for this like broker dinner involving Chris Paul's parents.
This is our generation's Shaq and Kobe finally sitting down for a conversation.
I'll just tell you this: I've already started greasing the wheels for the Sport Media game on Saturday.
Get your tickets.
Will might have a relationship like that, like Chris Paul, Scott Foster with the official for that game.
Sportversusmedia.com.
I'm kidding. I don't even know. I don't know. There is someone like we should. It's
Tashawn? Yeah, I saw he won the Big Brother Canada one year.
Okay, yeah, he's reffing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell him that in his ear, and I'm gonna get all the calls.
I plan on filing out in 10 minutes. Do what you got to do, refs. I just think it's a bad look, especially during playoff time and some of the stats you mentioned. It's like every time you see Scott Foster listed on a game 6, on a game 7, it's like, oh, like you expect something to be coming, or you expect the series. He's literally got the nickname as the extender to extend the series. I just think when your reputation precedes you that way, it's just not a good look.
Yeah, I mean,
look for the NBA.
I think for all sports right now, it's more and more difficult to be an official just because of how much clips get shown and how much research put into this.
There's a lot of lip reading online now too. You can see sometimes see what the conversations are.
And of course, like I think players have their own platforms, and they almost always blast the referees. Like it's never like, hey, you know what? Who had a great game today? Scott Foster. Having said that, though, I think every league would want the story to be less and less about the officiating.
Yeah.
They want to focus on the product.
But that's what I'm saying. The fact that you know Ben Taylor, the fact that you know Scott Foster's name, it's not a good thing.
Don't forget Evan Scott.
I will never forget Evan. I've done a little background check on you, Evan. The double is crazy. But yeah, anyways, that's Refgate. I think Tony Brothers or someone should just start a podcast with Tate Alter and just change the perception. Anyways, we always make fun of, well, not always, we've pointed out some things about Raptors game ops, over the last couple weeks, but, we got to be equal opportunity here. Steve Kerr, here's a clip from Steve Kerr from the same game after the game complaining about the in-arena feel of the game.
The team compete together, you know it, you feel it. It's the communication, it's playing with force, it's playing downhill, it's playing with great communication. You can hear everybody, talking defensively. Although in this building you can't hear anything because it's like a club. It's like a South Beach club out there. What are we doing? I'm being dead serious. Like I couldn't hear anything out there. It's just the whole game. It's just this thumping techno club music. Can we just have a basketball game anymore? What the hell? Sorry for the rant.
Yeah. Nothing, guys?
Well, I think at Raptors games and when I would travel on the road, I put earplugs in during the game because it's 41 times you're going to get blasted with very loud music, and some of the seats where we sit are close to speakers and things like that. I have not sat courtside very often. There are a couple teams that still put media courtside, and that included, I don't know if Phoenix still does it, but most recent time I was there, Phoenix did it. Phoenix and Memphis were like two of the last ones. And I didn't notice it was bad there. I don't know if that's a new thing or, Matt Ishbia comes in and he's like, no, we got to make the environment here louder and more hype or whatever.
He's like, give me my mortgage playlist. Give me my defaulted loans.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, Google, play Rihanna.
I think if it was actually loud to a problem, like KD and Booker and Beal would be like, hey,
Yeah.
can we turn this down a little bit? Like, we can't communicate.
There's like rules in place across the league of like
The
how
decibel
loudly.
levels and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we talking decibels, not decimals, in Talking Stick Arena.
Anyways, my proposal is if whoever wins the in-arena tournament, that team should get to pick their playlist on every road game. So they get to like, it's a little bonus for them. So this, like the Warriors go into Sacramento, they get to play whatever they want.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nothing but E40 on the road.
I
for
think
the
this would
Warriors.
motivate the players as much as the 500K.
Not as much as the 500K.
Other than the, no.
You're
I'm
doing
not
a, would you rather have $100,000 or play Jay-Z?
yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that.
That's a difficult question for Alex.
That is actually difficult. What else, man? All right,
Are we doing
so
the Chet thing?
yeah, so Chet Holmgren, from the OKC Thunder.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say this and then we'll break it down. So this
Go
is in
ahead.
relation to Kevin Durant's 3-point shooting this season, which has been absurd. And he tweeted, Chet tweeted, 54 from Trey Ball is OD shooting hang pulls. After 54, I have no idea what any of like this means. So can you? What is hang pulls?
Okay.
What's
Guys,
hang
just gotta
pulls?
break this down
Can we
component by
start? Can we
component.
start with hang pulls?
Are we in basketball ESL right now?
What is hang pulls?
So I think it makes more sense to go in order
Okay.
because it'll make
Yeah.
more sense as we go. So 54, he did not score 54. He's shooting 54% on
54.
threes. So from Trey Ball, that's pretty straightforward,
Three
right?
ball,
He's hitting 54%
Nice.
on threes is
Just-
OD,
yeah.
which is just like
yeah, he's
good,
out of
sick,
control.
awesome,
yeah, he's
whatever.
out of control.
Yeah.
And then as I understand it, shooting hang pulls is the hesitation move into a pull-up three.
A hang dribble into a pull.
A hang dribble into a pull-up.
So
Bro, what's hard to understand
Yeah.
about
No,
this, man?
but it just
Why do you
sounds-
need ESL
but
again?
it sounds insane.
Hard.
Shooting hang pulls. Okay.
So Chet got asked about this, by the way.
Oh, yeah? What do you
Yeah.
say?
He said, it wasn't supposed to be like an English paper. I could probably work on my grammar a little bit, but real ones, no.
Oh, I'm starting to
There's
become
different depths.
They really are,
I'm
man.
starting to become a Chet fan.
Chet is, by the way, if you go through Chet's like social, like just go through his Twitter, like
Yeah.
this is just how he tweets.
It's
like,
OD, eh? You're saying his Twitter account is OD?
yeah, like another one from Halloween. That joint fire. FYA, I need one.
Can we
Fire
call
emoji,
him OD Ananobi? Yeah. No?
Another one. Monster, the Dorcher is real. November 3rd about Lou Dort.
Okay.
You know, like it's
Yeah.
it's not an English paper. It's Twitter.com.
Those are making it on accidental Bronson,
Yeah.
is all I'm saying.
All right, relax, Grandpa. No, honestly, this tweet is one of those. Is like if you didn't understand this, you probably a little washed. I think that's
watched.
the overall feeling that most people got from this.
I've never felt more 39 than reading this.
Did you? Have you ever? First off, have you ever hit a tray ball and said tray ball?
No. No.
Have-
Trey ball is what the Atlanta Hawks play. Yeah, but go ahead.
We talking Team Cat. We talking Trey Ball Haynes.
OD is nice. I'm gonna start using OD.
I'm surprised you don't already.
That's Garfield's friend. That's
Oh,
Garfield's
come on.
friend.
Enemy, actually.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, enemy. OD. Yeah.
Yeah, no hang poles. I have not never said
Shooting
hang.
hang balls is crazy.
Shooting
You're
hang
like
poles is
firing
sick.
bullets with a hanger or something.
All right.
My
Yeah.
man's shooting hang
No,
balls.
honestly, I think a basketball or like a Hooper ESL segment would actually be pretty sick.
Yeah,
we might gotta
I-
find more of these.
I mean, we
I-
already did the like film room and stats ESL
Yeah,
segment.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
we got to get more. We
yeah.
gotta get
Also,
more.
we're retiring Slob Wizard.
Are,
It's,
are we?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
we
yeah.
are fully retiring that one.
Anyways, next up, support or shade. Devin Booker, after playing former teammate DeAndre Ayton the other night, said, quote, "He played extra hard tonight. I seen that. And my challenge to him is to play like that every night." Is that supportive or is that shade?
It's real, is what it is.
Okay.
It's
I like that he managed to do both.
Yeah, I feel like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Is it support or shade?
What if I said that to you on the podcast?
I don't know. You,
You
do
know?
say that to me.
I think it's more shade. Like, obviously, you have to couch the negative that you're saying in a compliment. But yeah, I think part of the reason they were willing to move off of Ayton right after he signed that big deal, and when they get this big three together, the big three are not thinking, well, DeAndre Ayton is a part of this, DeAndre Jordan style, like in Brooklyn, is, yeah, I mean, he's a frustrating guy to watch. Like, part of the reason that game was so frustrating against the Raptors, where he had 22 rebounds, is DeAndre Ayton's effort level is not very high. He's got to be the most frustrating double-double in the league.
Can I ask you guys a quick question?
Yeah, it's your show.
So, DeAndre Ayton, right? Dominating the nickname.
Yeah.
How many games this season do you think DeAndre Ayton has shot more than 10 free throws?
None.
In a game?
None.
None?
I say 4.
None.
Okay.
How many times do you think DeAndre Ayton has shot 5 free throws in a game this season?
None.
Yeah.
Well, now the way you're setting this up, I'm going to say none.
None. How many times do you think DeAndre Ayton has shot more than 2 free throws in a game this season?
I'm gonna say once.
How many games have they played?
He's played in 14 games, and he started all 14.
If you tell me none, I'm gonna go
now
outside.
I'll say 4.
One.
None.
Oh my
His
god.
free throw attempts 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, and then we rock it with a whole bunch of zeros.
No,
man.
he a binary code.
No way. No way. And I think this is what
He's
bothers people the
averaging
most.
0.6 free throw attempts a game in 31 minutes
Yeah.
as an interior big.
As an interior big. Seriously. Like, so I think what bothers people the most watching, or what I've noticed from people watching basketball is just like they get really annoyed when you have a big that doesn't play physical around the basket.
Yeah.
We used to like harp on Bargnani for like similar things.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bargnani also never called himself dominating, by the way. So
No.
it's tough. By the way, in that game that he talked about and that this clip came from, DeAndre Ayton was minus 33 in that game.
That's pretty hard. I'm
0
not
free
gonna lie.
throws.
If you're gonna be a minus, you might as well be over 30.
Minus 30. He got negative Larry Bird.
Yo, Aiden needs to go and shoot some hang pulls, man.
That's all he's shooting is hang pulls, apparently. This guy can never.
This guy needs a hang pull from the second box, man. Finally, I think we have time for this, Derek. We have one more clip. This is Shaden Sharp choosing his favorite food. Here's the clip.
Mashed potatoes or mac and cheese?
Oh, mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or butternut squash?
Mac and cheese. No.
Mac and cheese or cranberry sauce?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or creamed spinach?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or sweet potato casserole?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese
or scalloped potatoes?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or Brussels sprouts?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or buttermilk biscuits?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or steamed broccoli?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or stuffing?
Mac and mac and cheese. Got to.
Mac and cheese or cornbread?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or salad?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or sweet potato soup?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese or Jell-O casserole?
Mac and cheese.
So
54 servings of mac and cheese is OD.
What food would you guys have? Would you choose over nearly everything like Shaden Sharp did with mac and cheese? Is there anything that you guys would hang on to that tight?
Good mac and cheese is up there. Like it's a high ceiling but kind of low floor. Like replacement level mac and cheese at a takeout spot
You
is
call it
just
mac
not,
and cheese Norman Powell?
I don't know if we're talking Thanksgiving specifically. Stuffing's at the top for me. Like a good stuffing that's homemade.
This is my U.S. Thanksgiving. Closing topic. Yeah. For you, what about you, man?
First off, I got to stop laughing from him just saying mac and cheese.
It's the music.
Way, man.
It's the music that kills it. Like he's on beat too.
Oh yeah.
And I need Lee Van Osmond to recreate this.
With
except
poutine?
he just picks poutine.
Bro, that's
Go
actually
through
him
all
at the
the
arena.
Scotiabank Arena stalls. Poutine or noodle bow?
Poutine or dinner with Jay-Z?
Poutine or Shanghai 360?
He'll
before the
never
game?
stop.
Shanghai 360, the only thing I got over mac and cheese, man.
By the way, before you do the outro here, Will, only one big man in basketball averaging fewer free throw attempts per 36 than DeAndre Ayton.
Is it Yusuf Nurkic?
Al Horford.
Al Horford.
Yeah, because he shoots
come on,
threes.
man. All he's doing is shooting hang pulls.
Yo, he's shooting 30-foot hang pulls.
He's
Hang
54-year-old.
Hang pulls is what Booker and Ayton used to do post game when the winners worked. They were doing hang pulls in the back.
No, man. What a great episode, man. Big thanks to the Pound and Rock guys. Big thanks to both of you guys. Dennis Schröder as well. I don't know why I'm skipping ahead, but thanks everyone for listening. I've been your host, Willow. You've been listening to The Raptor Show on the Sportsnet Radio Network. Make sure to find The Raptor Show wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe, and please rate and review the show. Big thanks to everyone behind the scenes as well. Our producer, Derek Brandale, Frank Baraska, David Sis, Jared Manatad, and we'll be back to talk hang pulls tomorrow.